This video is going to be a little different than any video I've ever uploaded on my channel before. As you guys know, or might not know, my channel is based around video games and video game companies once. Today, we are going to be venturing outside of that. And the only reason is because of a technicality. And that technicality is the show is based around a video game. So it's not cheating. We're still in the realm of video games. So I think it's fine. And what show is that, you might ask? It is HBO's newest and hottest show that just ended, The Last of Us. Once again, as you guys might or might not already know, I have already covered The Last of Us on my channel before. If you want to see that video, it'll be probably, I think, up here. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to do one try up here. It's going to be up there. Let's see if I get it right. So I've already covered it before. So this video is going to be a little different because I won't be covering anything that I already covered in that video. So I won't be going over the actual story and how I feel about that, because I've already done that, and it'd just be repetitive for you guys. We're going to be covering the new things and some fun stuff, which I have to leave in suspense for you guys to, watch and see what happens. Also, on a little side note, before we get started with this video, I do want to say thank you guys for a fat fucking 200 subscribers. It is crazy, honestly. I'm being dead serious. It's crazy. I uploaded my first video to this channel 7 years ago. It is private now because I was a fucking toddler. The video is private, but I uploaded that first video 7 years ago in the start to my YouTube journey. And through those first, I'd say probably 6 years, it was very inconsistent of me uploading. I only gained probably around 40 or 50 subscribers in those first 6 years. But these past year, you guys have just been absolutely fucking amazing. Seriously. It has been crazy, just the growth of the channel. It was 150, it was 60 or 70 subscribers in 2 or 3 weeks, and then we've just been steadily growing as fucking the past years went on, and it's really crazy. I just want to say thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. But I don't want to make you guys wait any longer. With all that oshy-gushy stuff out of the way, let's just get straight to The Last of Us. I'm going to start by saying that this is the first good video game adaptation I've ever seen come to a screen. But who knows, though, the Mario movie could just be fucking killer. I'm kidding. It is probably going to suck. Seriously, though, the show does a great job implementing the game's themes, and they also change a few things. But the things they changed, it doesn't ruin the story and doesn't ruin the original game either. So what I mean by that is it's extremely hard to fit a game that's 20 or 30 hours long into a 9-episode season that's obviously 9 hours long. It's a little hard, and some things have to be cut out and left out. We also have to speed some scenes up. The key, though, is choosing what scenes need to be cut and what scenes need to be sped up for the story to still make sense and ultimately still feel like a complete story. And that's one thing I think the show did extremely well. I think that it did a great job at that. I'll get into some specific scenes here soon that either were cut or sped up, but I want to go into what really made me think that this show was going to be great from when they announced it. So this was a huge thing in my book. They brought in the original writers and creators of The Last of Us game to help on the TV show. They brought in Naughty Dog to help. And that was just fucking amazing, because who knows better what to cut or what to shorten or what to add than the actual original writers of the game themselves. I think it was massive that they had them on to help. This is their story, and I really respect the other writers and creators behind the TV show having that forethought to bring them on to help out. It really shows that they really wanted to create a good TV show and not just some fucking cash grab. So getting to the actual specific scenes that they shorten or cut out, and the first part of that is the scene with Joel, Tess, and Robert. When Joel and Tess, they're going to get their shit from Robert, and they chase him around to the dock, have to chase him around and go through all that fun fucking shit. In the game, that never happens in the TV show. This is different in the show, where Tess is kind of kidnapped by Robert and two other guys, and they are killed in this explosion that like an attack by the fireflies. and Tess and Joel end up going to Marlene, and which is how they eventually end up meeting Marlene, which I already met Marlene, but it's also end up meeting Ellie and going on this journey, which is, still different, but we get the same result in the end. Some other examples are Joel and Ellie at Tommy's place. Like, when they're there in the game, Ellie obviously gets mad that that Joel wants Tommy to take Ellie to go on because she feels like Joel's abandoning her, and she runs away. And in the show, she never runs away. She kind of just goes into one of the houses, and Joel and Ellie have that whole scene, and it is what it is. Another really small change is when Ellie is killing David in the game, she's hacking and slashing on his face, and Joel comes up behind her in the building and grabs her, and everything happens. In the show, she's hacking and slashing at his face, kills him. Actually, she ends up getting off of him and walking outside, and then Joel grabs her and does it. Just a little small change. And now for my favorite moment of the show that was shortened a little bit, which is the hospital scene, which I think they did a just fantastic job executing. Where Joel goes on that fucking massive killing rampage and just kills all the fireflies in the hospital. I think Pedro does a great job of just really conveying the anger behind Joel's voice when he finds out Ellie is going to have to die to, get the fucking spores out of her head so they can make a vaccine. Then we get that really slow buildup of the two guards walking Joel out of the hospital, and it's we know what's going to happen. We know Joel's going to go fucking pop off, kill the two guards, and start killing people. But it's just that slow build of us waiting for that to happen. And it takes a minute or two. They really like to fucking drag that scene out. But I think it did a great job just really just building everything up and the tension up. And then Joel obviously snaps, kills the two guys, and just goes on a massacre of the whole fucking building. I really like the touch they added of kind of deafening out the sounds. It just kind of puts into perspective that Joel is he's just fucking snapped at this point. He's just doing whatever it takes to get his daughter back, which he sees Ellie as in this moment. He is on a mission and doesn't care who, what, or why they are in his way. He will get them out of the way. It's almost like he's become an emotionless killing machine just to get to Ellie. Do you remember when the guy surrendered, dropped his gun down, and Joel still shot him? Or the time where Joel shot the guy, walked over with a knife, made sure to finish him. Or, obviously, Marlene, which is still consistent with the game and show, where he shoots her in the stomach, walks over, pops her in the head. It's just, Joel just had no fucking mercy, and it was just awesome. Just so awesome. Now, I do want to touch on one scene that is the same from the show and the video game that I just think that they did a great job. They just fucking nailed it and made it look just almost as good as the game, and that is the giraffe scene. If you have watched my original video on The Last of Us, you already know I fucking love this thing. I think that this scene did so much for the game, and I think it does just as much for the show. It does a great job of building that worry up when Joel helps Ellie up, and then she drops the ladder and runs away, and just Joel is chasing her throughout the building, and you can just really kind of they do a great job just kind of creeping into the music and really kind of just building attention because you don't know what's there. You're expecting some infected, some people, something to happen, something to pop out and attack them. But in reality, it's just Ellie just enjoying nature and just, being a kid. Watching Ellie feed the giraffe and just the joy on her face and the joy on Joel's face, it just really just is beautiful. It just shows how much Joel really cares for Ellie and how he's really kind of put everything into her. It's really great to see that Joel cares about someone this much, and they just did a fantastic job executing the scene. It's almost as beautiful as the actual game, and that is crazy hard to live up to, so props to the show for that, seriously. One huge thing the show does to make it different and stand out from the game is they change things about characters, and they change small things about the story to make it fall more in line with the second game, or they do it so people that have already experienced the first game can experience something new, or to kind of make it fall more in line with the story they have going on now. The biggest and best example of this I saw on the show was obviously episode 3, Long Time. This is massively different from the game to the show. They cut a huge amount of shit out they add in a new character and they completely change two characters' motives. Bill is a very important character in the early part of The Last of Us for Joel and Ellie's journey. He is a very hardened character from having lost people and is just paranoid and has his whole fucking town booby-trapped and is just ready to fucking blow. He ends up owing Joel a favor and helps them get a battery for a truck so they can, leave and drive further on their journey across the United States. He's by himself. He's very paranoid about everything and anyone around him. Bill in the show is kind of the same, but very different, if that makes sense. Bill in the game had a partner named Frank, who was like a friend on him that ended up disappearing, and I think that's what kind of broke him and turned him away from really associating closely with anyone, and what really made him paranoid and so isolated. In the show, he finds Frank in a pit outside of his complex that he's got going on, and ends up helping him out and bringing him inside his town. In the show, Frank and Bill end up becoming lovers, which I could have missed some hints to in the game, but I don't think there were ever kind of like any like inklings of that at all. Personally, I'm not bothered by this change, but I saw some people were pissed about it, and it's just, I think it's stupid to be pissed about something so small. I do think it kind of adds to his character because it shows that he has something to care about and someone to really keep going for and protect. The whole episode is based on their journey. We see them meet, and eventually we see their love start to blossom for each other and how that grows, and we see them meet Joel and Tess and create the codes on the radio. And then we see them defending their home from raiders, which Joel warned about, to eventually them growing old and dying, and they end up committing not alive together at the end of the episode, which is very sad, yes, but is romantic. And I think it fits with Bill's character because Frank was the one that was sick, and without Frank, Bill has nothing to live for. So I think it made sense in the end. Joel ends up finding the note that Bill had left for him and ends up taking the truck that was left. This is obviously very different from the game because in the show, Bill is dead. And when we leave him in the game, Bill is not dead. Like, not dead at all. I don't think it was a bad change though, because we were able to still accomplish our goal of getting the truck. It just happened in a lot less time, and they just cut a few things. So I think it works in the end. We also get to see more of Bill and how he is, but I feel like the Bill in the game and the Bill in the show are two different characters. So trying to compare the two, it really isn't fair because they're not the same character at all. They have the same name, yes, but in the end, they are different. Another change that is made with two other characters we meet a little bit further on, with Henry and Sam. And when we're in Kansas City, yes, people are being hunted in the game because Fedra has been overthrown and the people have gone crazy. But it's different in the show because Sam and Henry are being hunted for personal reasons, for being kind of what they call like sellouts. All that stuff was completely added in the show and was never in the game. And also the little end scene where they're all like there and the infected come out of the ground, that never happens, but it was still a super fucking cool scene to add because we got to see the fucking clickers, we got to see regular infected, and of course we got to see a bloater, which is the only bloater we see in the show, which is not a bad thing, I don't think, because it looked fucking awesome and it went on a rampage, just ripping people in half. It was so cool to see a bloater in real life. It was just something you gotta watch. Like I said though, they did make some other changes to fit more in line with the second game, so things added up a little bit more going from season 1 to season 2 for the show. For example, there's a time where Joel and Ellie are talking at a campfire, and Joel is explaining to Ellie that after he drops her off, he wants to settle down on a ranch on a farm and have sheep. And if you've played The Last of Us 2, you know that is exactly what Ellie does after like going to Seattle and doing all this shit. And after everything that happened, she settles down on a farm with Dina and has sheep. And for Ellie, in the same episode, pretty much in the same scene, we're told about how Ellie is like fucking in love with the stars and the moon and space. And if you remember back to The Last of Us Part 2 again, you know that for one of Ellie's birthdays in a flashback, Joel takes her to a museum that has a little like space shuttle in it. They sit in it and they take the astronaut helmets in and they go on, and it's just a really cool callback to The Last of Us Part 2 and what they'll be doing in the future with the second season. They also changed the town that Tommy's in to make it look a little bit more like the town in The Last of Us Part 2. Because if you remember, it's a lot different in the first game. And they also show a character that looks a lot like Dina. They don't name the character, but I'm going to say it is Dina. Another change they added to the game is a conversation with Joel and Ellie after the giraffe scene. It's a short conversation between the two, but I think it adds a lot to both of them as characters and does a great job of showing their relationship and how close it is now before going into what's about to happen with the hospital. So Ellie asks about the scar inside of his head, and Joel says that he was shot, but it was just kind of like a graze, or kind of just like on the side of the head. And Ellie makes a joke that the dude was a shitty shot. And Joel was like, yeah, the guy that shot was me. Sarah had died. This was 2 days after. Joel had nothing to live for. And when he went to do it, he flinched and kind of fucked up the trajectory, obviously. It's a very sad scene. But Joel probably has never shared this with anyone, not even Tess. And it just really shows the relationship the two of them have now. Finally, the biggest change that I think happened was in the first episode. When the show starts out, obviously we get to explore the whole day of the outbreak with Sarah, which never happened in the game. There's a very small moment in the show that I really loved, and I just thought, damn, I just know the show's going to be great because they added this in. It's very, very small, but it's when Sarah is in their neighbor's house, and like the old lady sitting on the chair behind her, and she's kind of looking through, I think it was like either like movies or some like CDs or something like that, but she was looking through it. And in the background, it's still in frame, but it's kind of blurry, gets out of focus. It's the old lady. You can tell she's infected because she starts like twitching and like all that kind of shit. And it's just really unsettling and unnerving. It was just so fucking cool. I loved it. The actual acting in the show is fantastic. Pedro Pascal as Joel. I couldn't have asked for someone better to play him. He does a great job portraying how cold and merciless Joel can be. But then also on the other side does a fantastic job of showing how Joel is letting his walls down with Ellie and kind of is bringing her in and growing that relationship and seeing her as a daughter. You can really feel that bond growing between them, and it was great. On to Ellie, who was played by Bella Ramsey. I hadn't heard of her before going into the show, so I didn't know how she was going to do. And people were hating on her before the show even came out. But, you know, I gave her a chance just because. And she killed it. I think she does just as good of a job as Pedro does playing Ellie. I think she fits into Ellie's personality extremely well. Like, it's really believable when she's fucking, like, running those quips out there, making those stupid jokes, or going through the puns. It all feels very real and believable. And I think she does a great job at that, but also conveying the little, like the darker emotions, like the scene with David in episode 8. It's heartbreaking to see as she's going through that. She just did a great job of portraying how just broken Ellie was at that moment. One critique for the show that I would imagine people would have that I have not seen a lot of yet is for a post-apocalyptic world, there really isn't a lot of infected in the show. We don't see that many. Which, yes, you're right, there really isn't a whole lot in the show, but I don't think it's a problem because The Last of Us was never about the actual infected themselves. It was about the humans and how they are reacting to the world around them and Joel and Ellie as a whole. In the end, what I think sets The Last of Us apart from other like video game adaptations is it has that TV show format to it. So in like a movie where you have to cram all this information into 2 or 3 hours, The Last of Us has 9 episodes of 9 hours to kind of space out the story, which still isn't a lot for the length of the game, but does give it more time and more time to work with what we have. HBO also clearly wanted this to succeed and not just be a cash grab by investing in the production and giving them good actors and good writers and bringing on the original staff to make sure that this is good and polished and as amazing as it can be. Bringing in Naughty Dog was one of the best decisions that they could have made because together as a whole, they do a great job of just making all of the scenes come to life and then making them feel just as real and believable and impactful as they could be. And you really feel that everyone on the cast really cared for the characters and the story and wanted to make something magical out of it. And by all hell, they did that. Against all other shitty video game adaptations, they made the best one ever. Hands down. The only downside I can say is the show is over. And now I don't have my weekly fix of The Last of Us, which is really fucking sad. But I guess we'll have to wait for season 2 and The Last of Us Part 2 to be covered in that. And if you want to see a video on that, I mean, I might have something on the works. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I might have something on the way for that. But guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. This is a little different than anything else, obviously, before. If you want to see me cover more like video game to show or movie adaptations, I definitely can. Just let me know down in the comments below. I would love to fucking rip on some really bad ones. Like the Hitman one. That's bad. Or some really mid ones, like Uncharted, another Naughty Dog one that didn't turn out as well as this did. But if you do, go down, just let me know. But please, guys, do not forget to go down and leave a like and subscribe, because if you do not, I swear to God, I am going to send you to the point in the show. I'm going to send you to 2 points. Either where all the infected are coming out of the ground and just are ripping everybody apart, or I'm going to stick you in the hospital when Joel's going on his killing rampage. So you don't get to pick. I'm just going to send you to one of the two. And I'm going to give you just a little pat on the back and say, good luck. So if you don't want that, go down and click subscribe, guys. But I hope that you, yes, you right there, have a fucking tastic day. And of course, guys, like always, deuces.